Goalies, how's it going? My name is Connor Monday, and welcome back to the DIY Goalie podcast. How we doing? How we feeling? Summer is almost over, which means that the hockey season will be coming back to fruition shortly for many of us here at the DIY Goalie podcast and our sister company, True North Goaltending. We are already just past the midway point in our goalie development camp that we run every summer. It's been a great, fantastic outcome, I guess, is the word that I'm going to use, but it's been a fantastic week so far. We have 2 days left. I'm kind of sad about it, but nonetheless, it is rewarding to know that we're making an impact on these goalies and that these goalies are going to come back to their respective teams and just kill it this year. That's going to be a very, very fun time. I'm here to talk with everybody today about how coaches in particular can utilize their ice time that would be beneficial to both their players and their goalies. It's the job as the head coach to develop all aspects of the team, from the forwards to the defense and including the goalies. Unfortunately, that is a aspect that does get overlooked, that does get maybe not as much attention as it should. So that's what I'm here specifically to talk about with you today, having a little bit of experience in that field, working with a multitude of head coaches throughout my coaching career thus far, most recently with the Spruce Grove Regals. So I'll kind of touch on that, as well as with my time with the Northern Alberta Tomahawks here as well. We will be referencing the DIY goalie article that Nathan has put up here. By the way, obviously Nathan is not here. I'm taking over for him today. He has given me the keys to the castle, and I plan to not destroy it. The article, which will link down in the show notes, is how to run a goalie friendly practice. We'll be touching on aspects of that. I also have another article that we have pulled up here, also on the DIY Goalie podcast, on how organizations can better support their goalies. Not exactly that we're going to dive into today, but definitely a talking point that maybe we can talk about in a future episode, and as well as referring to a goaltending seminar that Edmonton Oilers goalie coach Dustin Schwartz has put on with Hockey Saskatchewan about 5 years ago, which does touch on some good points there as well. Again, we'll kind of touch on it. We're not exactly going to go deep diving into it, but that's again another point for another time, and kind of what Mr. Schwartz is talking about kind of translates to other stuff later on down the line. So some organizations, particularly more so rural organizations, don't exactly have the luxury of being able to have a dedicated goalie coach, a dedicated organization, and there are even some organizations in the greater municipal areas that don't exactly have somebody that's dedicated as a goalie coach. So, which means that at the end of the day, the goaltenders on hockey teams, particularly within the minor hockey system, aren't exactly getting the most bang for their buck, I suppose is what we'll call it. I mean, all the players and the forwards, they get all these development stuff and all that, and that's where a lot of the head coaches and the assistant coaches time and energy gets spent, because they focus on the systems and the skill development for that, and the goalies are just kind of left to their own deal, and they just kind of do whatever it is that they want to do, and there's no real thought process behind that. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So we'll kind of break it down to a multitude of different factors that, for head coaches or assistant coaches, can help make regular practice more beneficial for not only the players as well as for the goalies as well. Starting off with warm-ups and the first drill that coaches get into with their teams. The buzzword that gets thrown around a lot is making sure that, hey, we're going to warm up the goalies first. But what does that exactly entail? If you look at it from an outside goalie perspective, it's shoot at their pads, shoot at their hands, don't go for the head, don't shoot the score. It's just fire the puck at the goalie so then they get a feel for it, and then we'll throw some other pucks at them later down the line. Now, that does, now, as beneficial as that may be, because obviously it's for me as a goalie, I want to make sure that I'm getting used to getting hit with the puck. Um, Getting a feel for it and all that. It's there's no real benefit behind that other than I'm getting hit with the puck. So instead, we should alternate that thinking where it's a opportunity for the shooters to not only kind of work on their shot and make sure that they hit the net. Pretty sure we've all been in a few practices where the shooter's gone in and it's gone 6 feet towards the other side of the other side of the net and it's hitting the glass and it shatters. Seen it happen. But it's more so a thing of now. It's like for goalies, it's a ample time to work on their tracking, work on their positioning, work on their movement, so they're comfortable in their crease. So then when you do move into your regular drills, it's they're not kind of figuring out their game halfway through. Yeah, so utilize more so for when just getting used to the tracking and all that, and that can vary based on age level. So, for example, as Nathan has in his article here for U9s, the shots generally should be coming from top of the circles, maybe a little bit inside the circles, just above the dot, but no further close in. Whereas for junior players and older, those shots should be coming just as the player enters just past the blue line into the zone. It's beneficial for a multitude of reasons. Number one, it's helping those players that get used to shooting from different areas of the ice. And as well as it helps the goaltenders being able to track the puck and being able to see the puck from release of the shot into their equipment, and should a rebound pop out, they kind of get an idea of where that would go. It all goes hand in hand. Um, excuse me, with each other there. It allows the goalie to have adequate time to track it into their body, and just encourages the players just to be able to shoot from anywhere on the ice. And especially for older players, it helps them get used to having more quicker shot. Even just today, the drill that I had a player kind of take 2-3 strides before he was even able to get the shot off. So it's a multitude of things like that. It helps warm up the goalies to be able to see the puck, get a feel for the puck, but it also helps the players as well being able to um, get a get a feel for their shot as well, and being able to work on their shot so they are able to hit the net more consistently. In tying in with that, not only just for the warm-up drill, but also for the drills moving forward throughout the rest of your practice, shot separation is a big thing here. So I'm going to kind of touch on both the warm-up part and as well as for regular drills throughout the practice. In a game of hockey, there's only one puck. One puck and one puck only, nothing else. I mean, we have a whole bunch of pucks on the ice during practice. Hey, that's great, that's fine. But realistically, at the end of the day, there's only one puck in a hockey game, and that's that one puck that goaltender needs to focus on. There have, and having had that experience firsthand, a lot of times where there will be drills where there's a number of shots happening not at once, but happening throughout the drill, and it's less than beneficial. I would actually even be bold to say not beneficial at all when you have multiple shots happening throughout the practice. Dustin Schwartz, in his seminar speech, and I thought it was a really good one. There's 2 points in it. Is that in the grand scheme of things, in a drill, there should be only about 2 to 3 shots. Okay. It's nice when you have a drill when hey, there's 6-7 shots happening all at once, because if you look at it from an overhead perspective, the ice looks busy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of development going on here, but realistically, there's not. It's more so you're teaching bad habits for the goalies in that regard rather than for rather than good habits, I should say. So it would be more beneficial if you had a drill where there's 1, 2, 3 shots. I think three, 4. I would even be as bold to say 4 at max. And then maybe even on that 4 shot, third shot, you play out the rebound. Just kind of get some puck work in there, and all that fun and all that fun stuff. But having time and space between the shots that are on net are incredibly beneficial for the goalie, because in that way they're able to set up on the first shot, read and react, and then they're able to set up on the next shot. So then that way the shooter is being challenged to pick a spot to try and beat the goalie, whether it be 5-hole, over the blocker, the shoulder, past the glove, whatever. And for the goalie, it helps them not create a bad habit. So I got to stop this one. Now I got to get over this one. Now I got to go over this one. And there's no technicality. There's no technique behind what it is that they are doing. It's just, I got to stop that puck however possible, and I don't care how I do it. Good mentality to have if you do it the right way. So the other part to that, and this is again where Schwartzy comes into play here, is there was a drill that it was him and Serge Laujoie, very good coach here in Edmonton. Most recently was with the Edmonton Oil Kings, I believe, where we all know that drill where they have the team lined up in the corner, or players lined up on both sides in the corner below the goal line, and then it's 1, 2, 3 shots around a circle. That's a prime example of not being able to, or for a goal, or not having proper shot separation. I suppose I should say. Instead, they altered that drill where the first shot, I think, was either around the dot or around the top of the circle. The second shot was up, the player went up by the blue line and then came back down in first shot, or maybe it was the ring out line. Maybe one of those two. I think it was one of the spaces between the ring out line and the blue line. And then the third shot, the player went up as far as the red line or whatever, and then came back down. That's a prime example of shot separation. Now, if you don't have that opportunity for whatever reason, then you would just need to space out the players accordingly. First shot, okay, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Next guy, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, so on and so forth. It gives the goaltender a ample opportunity to properly set up on each shot, not create any bad habits, and being able to track the puck in, track the puck out. And again, for the players as well, it gives them a better chance to work on their shot and being able to read the goalie's position and being able to find any weak spots should there be one. Just as I'm reading it, just bad habits, doesn't allow the goalie to get proper angles, square up on the pucks, not being able to get their feet set, all that stuff. And even then, maybe not something that I would focus on a whole lot, but I know that a few goalie coaches and just coaches in general would. It doesn't exactly give them a lot of confidence. It creates a lot of psychological and emotional, I don't want to say trauma, because that's not the right word. I think it's just it starts to mess with their head a little bit, because frustration obviously will set in, because again, you're so focused on trying to get to shot number 1, shot number 2, shot number 3, right? And if they're all happening all at once, it's unreasonable for the goalie to stop all 3. As well, it creates a safety issue as well, which we'll talk about in a second. It just, you get scored on, in your confidence and your mental game starts to go, which we talked with Pete Fry about that. Awesome interview, by the way. And it just, and that eventually starts to lead to bad habits, and it starts to lead to having a bad mental thought process, which can be translated into a game, right? The whole point of practice is to develop all your players, forwards, defense, and goaltenders. I mentioned that it does present a safety concern. For those who have seen goaltending equipment, they are big, they are massive, but they are meant to stop shots front facing. If a goalie is set up on a shot and then little Johnny decides to come and rip a puck at the net, and he catches the goalie in the the side, in the back of the leg, there's not a lot of padding there. That's a lot of exposed muscle, a lot of exposed skin there. I wouldn't say skin because the jersey and all that, but there's just a lot of exposure there, and you get hit in that right spot, it creates injuries, potentially could pull a muscle, trying to make a desperation save, and all that stuff. Just particularly when the shots aren't spaced out. Right, I've had that happen. It's a terrible feeling because nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to be the one to hurt somebody else. It's a terrible feeling all around. Nobody wants it. Nobody likes it. So that's why, especially shot separation, is incredibly important for both warm up drills and in your regular drills in general. Don't need 6 to 7 shots, 2 to 3 to 5 at most, and that's even probably stretching in that regard. Moving on, it's keeping your goaltenders involved in a way is a two-way street. Not only on the responsibility of the goaltender to stay involved, um, but it's also I don't want I would say the responsibility of the coaches, but I think it's beneficial for the coaches as well to have their goalies involved in whatever drill is happening on the ice, or even whatever is happening. Um, I want to say off the ice. It's not the word that I'm looking for, but having a goaltender's input either in a drill or in a system, a sequence, on the ice, off the ice, all that type of fun stuff. So obviously, again, this varies from age level to age level. It would be more so beneficial to have a goalie's input on drills at the bantam level, U18 level, which I guess is midget. I guess bantam's what, U17, the junior level, all that. Especially when you have a goaltender on your team that you've known for a while. Again, Dustin Schwartz in his Saskatchewan hockey seminar talked about it quite a bit there. And just if you're not able to have a goalie coach's input, if you're able to have your goalie's input on a drill, a system in your leadership group, that's much more beneficial because you have that aspect, or you have that perspective to be able to have your drill be effectively for all parties around. Because the last thing you need is, I was going to jump into a point that I don't want to get into yet. It's harder than for the younger goalies, because obviously, like, they're not going to know a whole lot yet. They're still learning the game and still developing the position at the same time. So if you're going to bring players in to a huddle for whatever reason to correct the drill or whatever, bring the goalie in there as well, so he's able to start to get an idea. I would even say this for all ages. Get a understanding and get an idea. Okay, what's going on in the sequence in front of him. In that regard, just keeping them involved in that discussion, in the conversation, in there as well. So the ideal situation during practice downtimes is to give the goalie some goalie time where they can specifically work on their skills. I agree with that point, but I want to take that a step further, where again, like I talked about, having a goaltender's input, especially if you don't have a on-call goalie coach, or a on-staff goalie coach, I should say. And even then, for little Johnny, okay, that's great. Hey, well, I'm chatting with so and so there. Johnny, go and do the X drill in the crease, the X skating pattern in the crease. T-push out, shuffle over, T-push back to the other post, back and forth kind of deal. Just something along those lines. So at least they're still working on that goalie development in that regard. Beyond that, even as you're going through the whiteboard, say, okay, forwards, I need you to do this, and that. Defense, you need to do this, and that. A lot of times it just kind of gets left at that. Um, Mention your goalies in there as well, because I think that's important as well. Because again, as a head coach, we need to focus on all aspects of our team. So again, I'm at the whiteboard. Forwards, I need you to pass to your pass to make a pass. Forwards, make a pass. Defense, shoot the puck. Goalies, I need you to. We're doing this drill. You should be focusing on your rebound control. This, and that. That way, the goalies feel involved in the drill. They feel seen, and then even as well, you get a idea on what it is that the players are doing at the board there as well. So there's that. Again, we kind of dive more into goalie time in the next point here. Um, but even then, just what drills are you doing that can have a little bit more goalie involvement? Are you throwing a puck into the zone where the defensemen have to go and retrieve it? Well, maybe you get the goalie to um, help out with that. Throw the puck at the goalie. He catches it, sets it for the defenseman so they can pick it up. Rim it around the boards. Goalie catches it. He brings it out from behind the net. Defense is hanging on the half wall or the forward or whoever's going to be there, and then the goalie fires it to the forward so then they can have an easy breakout, come back into the offensive zone. Get them to come out and stop dump ins. You have a breakout option. Make your goalie part of your breakout, right? This may not be the most best example, and again, I know that we're trying to reach in a international audience here, but I think a prime example is if you go on YouTube, you search up Mike Smith. Don't like the guy, but a incredible puck player. There was one sequence, I think it was in the NHL playoffs a couple of years ago, where I think it was like the dying seconds of the period. I think the Oilers were tied or down by one or something, and I think it was a playoff game too. And the lot of chaos happening in front of the net. Mike Smith had the puck and he just took it, had the puck in his glove, went for a small skate, put it down, batted it up to Connor McDavid, and he ended up going on a B-way and ended up scoring it was either the game tying or the game winning goal. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But even still, you watch other teams where the puck, particularly when the opposing, or not the opposing team, where a team is on a penalty kill, and they throw the puck down to try and clear some time to get a change or whatever, and you see the goalie coming out by the hash marks to retrieve the puck, fire back up to the defenseman's on the blue line, so it's a shorter distance for the power play to get back into the offensive zone on the attack, while the penalty kill is on the change. So it's important to, I would say it's important to get your goaltenders part of your breakout, part of your penalty kill, part of your power play. Because again, I think the best special teams player that you could have on the ice probably more than likely could be your goaltender. Even when you have alternative practice, and by alternative practice, I mean skills practice, power skating. Those would probably be the main two. What's the goalie doing in that regard? Touching on power skating just for a second, I'm personally not a big fan of it when I play, but as a coach, I love it. Skating. The goaltender needs to be the best skater on the ice, because they have much more edge work to work on there. So just being able to be comfortable in your skates and be able to understand your edges effectively as a goaltender goes a long way in that regard. So you have power skating. The goaltenders can be part of your power skating for the first 15, 20 minutes, half hour, 15, 20 minutes, I think I would actually say, of your practice, and then the rest of it would be going into your your impromptu goalie session in that regard. Your skills practices would be the the same way. I'm not a skills coach, but having had a couple of skills practices, I've where we've just gone right into our goalie sessions in that regard. Um, yeah, just all just do as a head coach. What can you do to adjust your drill where the goaltender can be involved? Is the general moral of that type of story. Again, however you see fit to do that. And again, there are bunch of different resources out there as well. And you can reach out to myself or to Nathan Park at the DIY goalie to chat with that. So moving on, I kind of spent a little too long on that, but we move on and we talk about allowing goalie time. And this one is this one's interesting, I would say. And I say that it's interesting because there's multiple different tiers of factors here, and I could probably rant on about it for about an hour, but I'm going to try and do my best not to do that. Um, so we kind of touched on it in the last section where, okay, if you have a practice, try and allow some goalie time um, for the goaltender. But I think before we even dive into that, we need to lay out a level of understanding of what each coaching staff's role is on the team. Um, Again, go back, watch the Saskatchewan hockey interview or seminar with Dustin Schwartz. He kind of talks about it a little bit deeper. But each coaching staff needs to understand what their role is on the team: head coach, assistant coach, goalie coach. Um, so we're starting to see a trend here in Alberta, particularly in Edmonton, where we're starting to have a few more coaches come out now, assistant coaches come out, um, and they're kind of the designated guy to work with the goalies, because sometimes, not in a perfect world, every team, minor hockey, junior hockey, I was going to say beer league, but I feel like that'd be silly, should have either a on staff or a part-time goalie coach. Obviously not the case, so there needs to be there should be rather a dedicated individual on the team, or a dedicated associate coach on the team um, that is given the basic knowledge of the goaltending position. So then the goalies on your team is able to um, get their touches in as well. There are a bunch of different assets on the internet, because thankfully we do live in a day and age where we have that. DIY goalie being one of them, ice hockey systems, In Goal magazine, which requires a subscription, but that is an option as well. Even just YouTube videos as well. There's plenty of free YouTube videos that do explain certain technicalities and certain position and certain aspects of the position of goaltending. And even seminars that's presented by Hockey Saskatchewan, Hockey Alberta, or whatever hockey, minor hockey organization that you are with. But just there needs to be, there should be rather a dedicated member of the coaching staff that is tasked with being provided the basic knowledge of that system. And the reason I go on about that is, for those teams who don't have a dedicated goalie coach, doesn't or shouldn't rather omit the fact that that there still needs to be some allocated goalie time every couple of practices or so. The team that I was supposed to be with this year, we had come up with an agreement where it would be every in a 7-day period. There was 3 practices, and I think we agreed that I think it was every second practice we had that goalie time that was supposed to be scheduled. Unfortunately, things didn't fall through, but just having that communication and understanding as well, and that's a whole point that I want to personally talk about in a different in a different podcast. But the point still being is that there was a agreement or a general understanding that there was going to be some goalie time allotted. With previous teams that I've worked with, I kind of had to beg tooth and nail sometimes for allotted goalie time, and it just kind of depended on kind of how the practice was scheduling, how the practice was supposed to look. But with that being said, there still needs to be should have some allotted goalie time available with whoever the individual is, whether it's an associate coach that's been tasked with being provided the basics of goaltending, a dedicated goalie coach, or um, a uh, a goaltending company such as True North being one of them, um, being provided that time. And it doesn't need to be anything complicated. It doesn't need to be anything um, that goes into a lot of depth about things and the why or the understanding or anything. It should just be focusing on the basics and just the simple things, because as goaltenders, and even I can preach as a goaltending coach, it's always not a bad idea to have to go back to basics. It's not a bad idea at all. It's I've been in practices where we've been in the middle of the season, we're riding a high or we're riding a low, and I say, Kate, we're gonna go back to basics. So we go back to the simple drills again. We don't go into the to the more, I want to say resource heavy, and I'm going to say resource heavy kind of drills. Instead, we go back to simple movements such as T pushes, C cuts, shuffles, simple puck tracking, where I just have a pile of pucks at the hash marks and I just fire them because I want them to get used to, or I want them to um, work on their tracking again and their shifting into their movements and their hand placements and all that kind of stuff. Um, Rebound controls, post plays. So that's all, everything that I just kind of laid out there in the last few points. Is all kind of um, basics that for us as goaltenders and as goaltending coaches, and is even, I'm going to say honorary goaltending coaches. We all go back to those basics at some point, and working on those basics is I'm just going to say the basic foundation, because it is a basic foundation of the goaltending column, pyramid, totem pole, whatever it is that you want to call it there. Um, yeah, it's important to set aside that time. Um, Obviously, in practice, there's not, for me in practice, in a perfect world, I'd like to have the entirety of the practice to work on the goalies, because I love working with goalies and I don't like sitting on the side watching the players do their thing. I like working with the goalies, being involved with them. Always, obviously not going to be the case. So if you're able to set aside 10-20 minutes or so of the practice to be able to work on those things, you're golden. Playing out pucks is a very, very important one, um, because it simulates a couple of things for both the players and the goaltenders, in that regard. And so, again, going back to not the previous point talking about allocating time, but talking about oh shoot, what was it? I think it was keeping the goalies involved. Was it that? No, it was the shot separation. Going back to the shot separation for a second. Um, you're in a drill where you have 2-3 pucks, 2-3 shots rather, I should say, happen. I would honestly want to say that the rebound should always happen on the last shot. Okay, because it's important because it allows the goaltender an opportunity to actively play out the rebound. Um, in my practices, I generally and if I have a multi shot drill, I always want to give the goalie that time to at least make their save and react as if they were going to play out the rebound. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have to get up and move, but the whole ideology being is that they set up on the shooter, they make their save, rebound pops out towards the half wall or whatever. I want to at least get them. I want them to get eyes on that next target as if they were going to play out the rebound. Um, doing this option, the play out puck option, where you have a drill where it's a 3-on-2, um, whatever that may be. You play that puck until either whistle goes or until the puck's in the back of the net or until the puck's cleared out of the zone. You kind of see that already with some drills that are below the with some battle drills that are below the blue line. But still, I would even if you're doing, I would even go as far to say, even if you're doing a systems drill where you have X1 comes in first shot, they stand in front of the net to deflect a screen or whatever. Be a screen, deflect the puck is what I meant to say. X2 coming in, same thing. Go in first shot, hard stop in front of the net. Now they're another traffic cone in the way, I should say. And then X3 being that last guy to come in. So the goalie has X1 and X2 that's in front of him. That's trying to screen, get a tip, whatever. But those two are also now rebound players as well. So when X3 makes that shot, hits the goalie in the pad, goes to the corner, you let that, as a coach, we should let that rebound play out until either the goal is scored or the puck's clear, the whistle goes to let the next group go. That type of deal. It does slow the drills down, but that's the whole point, or that's the whole idea rather, is that we want our goalies, for us as goalie coaches, we want our goalies to be able to get comfortable in making their save with some traffic in front, just being that as an example, taking the shot, play out the rebound, and then go until, and then compete and battle until one of those three options happen: whistle, goal, or clear. Um, Biggest thing to understand though is that we don't want to let these shooters make 6 to 7 passes that ends up in a backdoor tap in. Number one, because it's realistic. Number two, because it also does create a safety concern, like we talked about earlier in the shot separation. That if a goalie pulls a muscle the wrong way, then well, now that goalie's out for 1 to 2 weeks with a back spasm or whatever it is. I'm not a medical person by any means. So that's a option. um or that is the option rather, that I would say. It helps the player get better at hunting down the rebounds, and as well as helps the goalie rebound control, with their rebound control, seeing the puck in and seeing the puck out. um Going into communication, I would like to extend beyond the bullet point that Nathan has here in his article, and again go back to referencing the Saskatchewan hockey video that Dustin, or seminar rather, that Dustin Schwartz has put on, because I think it's very, very important as well. Communication for goaltenders happens on a multitude of factors. Like I talked about in the keeping the goalies involved bullet point, it's having that communication between coach and goaltender is good, because again, the goalie gets the um, the coach perspective, I should say, whereas the coach gets the goaltending perspective on those things. The bullet point that Nathan has here, though, is that it's not one of those things that um, happens a lot in practice, I should say. The bullet point that I want to talk about is actually going to end up being another podcast that I want to talk about. But the Yeah, so it doesn't happen a lot in practice, um, but it should be a thing. It should start to be a thing. That's what I'm trying to get at here. For us as goaltenders, as players play the game north south, we play the game east west. In a way, we're kind of like the quarterbacks on the ice. We see everything that happens in front of us. We can see when our defenseman has their back towards the play, and um, player from the other team is starting to come into pressure. We see that, and so for us as goaltenders, we need to be able to communicate that. Um, it's important that coaches are on top of their goaltenders with that, saying that their goaltenders need or should be encouraged rather to chat with to chat with their players, to excessively communicate with their players, as this again is a habit that will translate into a game, much as athleticism and compete battle level will be in a learned trait that will also translate into the game. I wanted to touch on that in the playout pucks point. I'll circle back to that towards the end there. So where you have drills where it's a 2-on-2, a 2-on-1, I don't like a 2-on-1. 2-on-1, 2-on-2, 1-on-1, 3-on-3, anything along those lines. It should be encouraged that the goaltenders is communicating verbally with their players, saying things like take the pass, can't see, man on, wheel, back doors, so on and so forth. Um, Cherry picker, anything along those lines. Anytime where you have a drill that has a situation like that, it should be up to the goalie to communicate that, and it should be up to the coach to um, encourage for the goalie to communicate with their players, and keep on it until it starts to become a habit with those goalies, as it'll help your team as a whole throughout the entirety of the season. Again, the goaltenders are I would say that they are the quarterbacks of the team, so they would be the best possible people to, for lack of a better term, have your back and be able to call the play as they see it. Before I jump into this last point, I want to go back to the playoff pucks thing for a minute. Where when you have a drill that's multi-shot and you go and play the rebound on the third shot, it also just helps to create a level of athleticism and a level of compete in a goalie. It's one of those things, unfortunately, that can't be taught. Excuse me. It's one of those things where it's on the the goalie themselves. The onus is on the goalie themselves, where uh, it's their puck, and they should do everything in their absolute power to keep it out of the net. Um, in the practice that I was just at today, that's the general phrase of what I tell my goalies. I can't tell them that you got to compete, you got to battle for those pucks. I tell them that, but I know that doesn't really register with them, because they can say, "Yeah, coach, I'll compete, I'll battle for that puck," but their own ability, I should say, doesn't exactly translate in that regard. So generally, instead, just what I tell them is that puck is yours, that is your puck, and you don't let anybody get to that puck. And by God's green earth, you better find a way to make that save. I find that I've seen a difference in that regard there, because I'm giving them something to, I don't want to say something to shoot for. It's almost like it's a goal. That's not exactly the point that I'm trying to drive at, but it's one of those things where it's just I'm just kind of pointing that out, saying like I'm trying to create that Pete Fry mental game in their heads, like that puck is mine. Nobody's gonna get my puck, and now I'm gonna do everything in my power to keep that puck out of the net. Jumping into our last point here of the day, hockey's meant to be fun. Playing goal is meant to be fun. Being a player is meant to be fun. It's fun to score goals. It's fun to stop goals. So the biggest reason we play hockey is for fun. It's meant to distract us from homework, from our job, from our relationships, from any kind of negative energy that happens in our personal life. Um, the last thing you want is to come to practice or to come to a game where you're just in a absolute dog crap mood and you just do not want to be there because it's not fun for you, it's not fun for the coaches, it's not fun for the players. Everybody is at practice to be better, everybody is at the games to compete, to have fun. um as it's a competitive it's a competitive thing for us. It's just to fuel our competitive nature, help regulate emotions, stay healthy, right? um so for us as coaches, I know of coaches that are of the hard I can't swear. It's the hard butt attitude rather, I should say. The Either you're 100% in or you're 100% out. I can fully support that mindset to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, hockey is meant to be fun. We're all there to play the game. At the end of the day, to play the game that we know and love. There is no reason to make it a unenjoyable experience for everybody on the team. Um, Battle drills, compete drills help to challenge the players, and that's a good thing to have, as it again fuels our competitive nature. As players want to try harder to score, goalies want to try harder to stop them. As again we said earlier, that you cannot teach compete and athleticism to both players and goalies, but you want to put them in a situation where you are, for lack of a better term, pitting them against each other for I want to say for the pure enjoyment, but that's not exactly the case, but just for to the from they can develop from that exposure as well. Um, because we all, as goalies, we all want to come to a game where we make the highlight reel Sports Center top 10 glove save, just as much as the players want to come to the game to make the Sports Center top 10 Connor McDavid through 5 New York Ranger players and then score and score and either he had to score the first goal of the game or he scored the one of the go ahead goals or tying goals of the game. The players want to hear the oohs and ahs from the game just as much as the goalies do. So we want to have those battle and compete sessions, but also again at the end of the day, it's a game and fun is more important than the development. And that is kind of where we end it for today's podcast. I really hope everybody enjoyed. There was a lot of talking points throughout that. I am going to have Nathan reference the How to Run a Goalie Friendly article from the DIY Goalie there. I'm also going to have Nathan reference the Saskatchewan Hockey Dustin Schwartz seminar. Again, I want to jump back on another pod where we talk about how coaches and goalie coaches interact with each other. I think that's an interesting aspect to turn there, and just having that communication and that same level of understanding. Um, I think there's a little bit of interest. I think for me there's interest in that, and having been through that experience personally, I think there's some good avenues to take down there and stuff from my experiences that can translate back into you guys, the viewers, and how that all goes about there. Um, and yeah, just so I'll have him link that there as well. and we'll probably again reference it later on down the line. Once again, as always, you can follow us on your favorite podcasting platforms at the DIY Goalie. You can also head over to the DIYgoalie.com where you can locate. You can find all of our drills that we use here at True North Goaltending, our sister company. Also, as well, I know that Nathan will be putting out some more drills on that once our week long goalie camp comes to an end here this Friday. He might even wait until after our weekend camp next week, but we'll touch base on that. We also do have the DIY goalie shop here as well, where we have a fantastic assortment of goodies here for you. My birthday is coming around the corner. So for anybody that may or may not be listening, they can head over to the DIY goalie pod here, to the DIY goalie shop rather, where you have My Little Goalie Makes Big Saves unisex hoodie, where you have a I Rob People pullover, a watercolor youth goalie unisex pullover hoodie. That's interesting. My Crease, My Rules t-shirt. I actually kind of like that one. As well as another a hoodie and a t-shirt that says I don't talk to myself, my posts are listening. I like that one as well. We also have the digital coaches handbook to supporting their goalies. Again, where if you read the article that's on the website, the handbook kind of goes a little more into detail about it as well. So that is definitely a good buy for only $6. I like it. And yeah, so we'll kind of leave it there. If you want to get a hold of us, you can reach out to us at the DIY Goalie, or you can also reach out to us at YEG Goalie Coach over on Instagram. I believe the handles may be the same across the other social media platforms. I might have to check, but those links should be down in the show notes as well over at the DIY Goalie. If you want to follow myself and what I get up to in my life, as well as what I do throughout on the ice, I'm starting to post a little more goaltending content over on my Instagram at MondayGC. You can give me a follow there. I do follow people back. Always good to network and that type of fun stuff. It has been a pleasure to be your host today. One last thing, make sure that you also do head over to the DIY Goalie website, as we are still waiting on some listener questions. We want to get a Q&A podcast going. I don't know if Nathan will let me out of my cage on that one, but we do have that going for us as well. We are looking forward to hearing out from you guys, and I definitely would like to answer some of your questions here as well, because I think it's important to get that dialogue going back and forth. But beyond that, again, the pleasure has been all mine. Thank you very much for watching if you're on YouTube, and for listening on your podcasting platforms. My name's Connor Monday, and Nathan and I will be back next week. Take care.